Okay, hi, my name is Katie Braun, and I play viola with the Atlanta Musicians Orchestra.
Awesome. So how long have you been playing the viola?
I started playing the viola in fourth grade, so when I was about 9. So if I do math in my head, that'd be 23 years.
I'm glad that you are so confident in indirectly telling us how old you are. And what made you choose the viola as opposed to the violin or other instruments?
It's actually a little bit of a ridiculous answer. We got a sign-up form that had to go home to our parents, at the end of third grade on what we wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
for fourth grade, because we could choose to do the recorder or a string instrument. And if you chose to do the recorder, you were probably going to go on to do a band instrument in fifth grade, but if you chose a string instrument, you'd probably stick with that. And so they sent home this form, and you were supposed to check off which instrument you wanted to learn. And I looked through the instruments, and I was like, viola or violin, okay, I know what that is. Cello, I know what that is. Bass, I know what that is. I don't know what a viola is, so probably nobody else does. So probably nobody's going to pick it, so they need somebody to play it. And
I love it.
that's how I chose the viola.
You know, I'm wondering if viola players have similar stories, like, well, no one else was playing it, so I figured I'd give it a try.
That's probably not a very uncommon answer.
Right. Okay. And what do you enjoy most about playing?
I like being part of a group activity. I've never been a solo player. I hate playing solo pieces. I've done it twice. I almost ran away and threw up both times. Definitely prefer playing in a group. And mostly I just like how it sounds. I mean, I may have picked the viola for kind of a ridiculous reason, but it ended up being something that I really just like how it sounds.
Mm-hmm. And what do you enjoy most about playing with the AMO?
I really enjoy that it's a group of varying experience levels. So, we have people that have been playing for 50 years and have played professionally and done all kinds of great things. And then you have people like me who really learned how to play in school, and that's almost as far as that went. And so there's a little bit of everybody on the spectrum, and I think that makes it a really interesting group because you can learn a lot from it, and meet really kind of interesting people, because everybody's coming from different backgrounds and places and experiences.
And how did you find out about the AMO initially?
I just took to Google and tried to find some kind of community orchestra in my area, and there's a lot of bands that you can join in various places, but there's not a lot of organizations that have string instruments in them. And so that was one of the very few at the time. I don't know if there are many more at this point, but yeah, Google.
And how long have you been playing with the AMO?
About 7 years.
7 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yep.
Okay. So now I'd like to transition more into what you do outside of orchestra. So I learned that you serve as a teacher's assistant at the Tippins Educational Center. Mm-hmm. So tell us more about the school and what tasks you do as a teacher's assistant.
Okay, Tippins Education Center is a public school in Cherokee County, and or it's part of the public school system, I guess I should say more accurately, and it's exclusively for excuse me, it's exclusively for people who have emotional and behavior disorders and are not currently successful in a traditional classroom environment. And so they come to us, and we have very small class sizes. I mean, like, the most I ever had was 9. And at that point, we split into 2 classes. So usually it's around 4 to 6, which allows us to give students a lot of individualized attention. We do a lot of social skills education. It's a therapeutic environment, so they do see a clinical social worker regularly, and our school counselor. And that's, I mean, really our primary focus is to get our guys back to their regular school environment, where they can be safer and be more successful. And so I work with kids in 6th to 8th grade. So our middle school portion of the school. And I've done that for about, this is going to be my 6th year working there. So I do a lot of things. I take a lot of data on behaviors mostly. I help teach the classes because we usually have more than 1 grade level in a class. And so with science and social studies especially, you have to do different topics for different grades. So the teacher can't be teaching about economic systems in Africa and the colonial portion of Georgia history all at the same time. So I'll take one group and she'll take the other group, so we can divide and conquer.
Wow. And so how does, I don't know a lot about teaching, so what types of teaching strategies do you employ that seem to be most effective for your students?
There's a lot of trying to break it down into smaller pieces that are much more easy to understand. And especially, I find it helpful with my students to try and connect it to something that they've experienced or something they already understand, and then branch out from there. Like, for example, trying to explain osmosis and diffusion to 7th graders. It can be a difficult topic to understand and to explain to them, especially because a lot of my students are functioning below grade level. And so the way I usually explain that is by having them imagine what it would be like if we took all of the people in the school and tried to put them into our classroom. I would want out of that classroom so fast. I'm not staying in there where it's crowded. And most people aren't going to stay in there where it's crowded. We're going to filter out the door into the hallway until it about evens out and everybody's a little more comfortable. And they can picture that in their heads versus trying to abstractly explain semi-permeable membranes and all this kind of stuff. And after they get that kind of explanation, they're like, oh, okay. A lot simpler of a concept to understand because they can connect it to something and the language is simpler.
Right, right. And what drew you to working at Tippins?
I have a bachelor's degree in middle childhood education. And so I was working as a teacher in South Carolina, and then I moved to Georgia and was kind of waiting for a teaching job. I substitute taught for a year, and during that year, I ended up subbing at Tippins a lot because my, at the time, now fiance, now husband, was working there also as a paraprofessional. And it can be challenging to get substitutes to come to our school because behaviors are a thing. And I was one of the few substitutes that would come back. And come back again and again and again.
Yeah.
And so a job became available for the next school year, and I interviewed and was hired, and I've absolutely loved it. Behaviors can be challenging, but the goal of the school is amazing. Trying to get them the skills that they need to be able to move back to their traditional school environment. And then the people that I work with are amazing. They work so well together as a team and genuinely care about the kids that we work with. Because if you did not genuinely care about them and want what's best for them, you couldn't do it.
Right. Right. That sounds like a challenging but also very rewarding work environment.
It really can be.
Yeah. And with the pandemic and just talk about schools reopening, how do you think that's going to go for you?
I think a lot of it is going to be business as normal for us because we do have such small class sizes. We can fairly effectively keep kids appropriately distanced. Plus, we try to keep them somewhat distanced because when they're close together, things can happen very quickly before you have a chance to intervene. And we only have one of our middle schoolers that chose the digital learning option. So we'll have our full complement of students. Plus a lot of the, I guess, essential functions of our job. Our jobs include having to be close to students. I mean, there's something called proximity control that's written into a lot of students' IEPs, their individualized education program. And basically that means if you stand close to them, they're more likely to do what they're supposed to do. It's a general educational principle. I employed it in my general education classroom in South Carolina, but it's written into their IEPs, and that is a legal document that we have to follow word for word, or there are big consequences. So it's in there. We got to do it, pandemic or not. So masks and face shields.
Yeah, all the way.
Face shields.
All right. So those are all the more serious questions. So now I'm going to transition into some more fun questions.
Okay.
So what is your most favorite sound?
I, not gonna lie, I saw this in previous interviews and I was concerned about this question, so because otherwise I would have no answer. And some of my favorite sounds are the little noises that cats make that aren't meows. Just a really specific answer, but they make so many fabulous little noises.
That's true. And do you have cats?
Yes, I have two.
Okay. I'm sure that they make all of your favorite sounds.
One more so than the other.
And so now, what is your least favorite sound?
That's a hard one. There's not a whole lot that really, really bothers me as far as sounds go, which I think is something that helps me with my job because they can't annoy me as easily as they can annoy other people.
Right.
But I guess it would have to be like really high-pitched squeaky noises. Like nails on a chalkboard doesn't bother me. But like, have you ever taken your bow and played on the string on the other side of the bridge?
Maybe once or twice. I'm sure I have at some point. It's just been a while.
Probably you haven't done it again because the noise it makes is awful. Because it's incredibly high-pitched and horrible.
Okay, so very valid. So now I know not to do that.
I wouldn't recommend it.
When I practice. Okay. All right. And if you could travel anywhere in the world once it's actually safe to travel again, where would you go?
Um, Kind of a tricky question. There are lots of places that I want to go, but I think right now, what's the place I'd like to go most once we can travel again safely is honestly to go home and visit my family. I'm not originally from Georgia. I'm originally from Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, we're, having to face the very real possibility that Christmas in Ohio may not be an option.
Right.
Like it usually is. And because it would be unwise and unsafe for me to go home after working with lots of children and other people every day and go see my dad and his wife who are over 60,
Mm-hmm.
and then see my grandma who's 93, and all that. I just don't think that that would be worth it. So I'm eagerly anticipating when it is safe again to go visit my family.
That's very heartwarming answer. I'm sure that a lot of us miss being able to see our families in person. I mean, yes, we can do Skype or Zoom, but there's nothing like that in person contact. So,
We managed to get my grandma onto video chat.
oh,
She does have a smartphone. She got a smartphone before I did.
nice.
So we managed to get her on video chat, and she thinks it is the most amazing invention ever. She thinks it's amazing, and it's absolutely the best.
Well, I'm glad that she has adopted that technology. All right, and now I just have one last question. So, if money was no object, what passions or hobbies would you pursue?
If money was no object, um, probably a lot of miscellaneous crafting things, like being able to take lots of art classes and um, buy all the art supplies, because art supplies can be very expensive. Um, and probably would do a lot of traveling. And I'm not sure that that traveling would be, exploring totally across the world. A lot of it would probably be visiting places I already have because I liked them,
Mhm.
and it would be fun to go back to them.
Well, awesome. So, um, well, thank you very much, Katie, for taking time out of your day to be interviewed. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, you too.